Hello, and welcome to the Caine Interviews. I'm your host, Shannon Caine. Today we'll be discussing the very serious subject of missing and abducted children. Many of you will remember the Morgan Nick case in which a child in Alma, Arkansas was abducted. That happened in 1995, and as of this time, Morgan is still missing. Since that time, the Morgan Nick Foundation was created to help raise public awareness about missing children. We'll be talking with Tara Landers, Director of Events and Outreach for the Morgan Nick Foundation. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. First, let's get some background on the Morgan Nick case. Please tell us a bit about the person for whom this foundation is named.
Well, as you said, Morgan was a little 6-year-old girl who was taken by a stranger from a Little League ballpark in Alma, Arkansas. That was back in June of 1995, and as of 14 years later, she is still missing. But we do still currently have a great team of investigators that's actively searching and following every lead that still comes in to search for Morgan.
Wow. Okay. Now, if a family with a missing child contacts the Morgan Nick Foundation for help, what can the foundation do for them?
Well, we can do a lot of things. For example, if that child is abducted by a stranger and an Amber Alert is issued, we do go out on the scene as far as the initial investigation goes to help the family. We can disseminate flyers of the missing child. We can also help coordinate with that law enforcement agency and with the media for the family, and just be there to provide some advocacy and support and encouragement for the family as the investigation continues.
Okay. In addition to abducted children, do you also work with runaway children?
We do, and actually more runaway children than abducted children. We do some of the same services for those families. It's just a little bit different. We still can create the flyers, provide support. It's just in a little bit of a different capacity.
Okay. Now, what are some immediate steps that one should take upon realizing that a child has gone missing?
Well, in the case of a small child, whether they go missing from a home or a store, you want to first search in places that children might hide, closets, underneath beds, clothes hangers, dressing areas, those kinds of things. And the good rule of thumb to follow is that if they're missing for more than 10 minutes, call 911. And of course, if you're in a store, you can also immediately notify the store's manager, security, because most of them have a Code Atom plan that mobilizes employees to go look for the child as well.
Okay. Now, what kind of photos are most helpful to law enforcement in the event that a child goes missing? In other words, what kind of photo ID should parents keep on hand?
The best kind of photo to keep on hand would be a headshot that is taken straight on of the child. And of course, in the case of younger children, we recommend that they get updated about every 6 months. For an older child, maybe once a year. And that, as well as keeping a hard copy, you'd also keep an electronic copy that you can get around to people more quickly than the hard copy.
Okay. Now, a primary concern these days is online safety. How can children be kept safe while surfing the internet?
Well, it's not just the internet that's proving to be unsafe anymore. It's also cell phones and online gaming systems and a whole world of technology that's just coming out that we really need to keep up on. It's important for parents to set really clear rules for their children as far as internet surfing and other things. And the first rule of thumb we tend to say is keep that computer in a family room. Don't let them take it into a bedroom where they can be doing stuff that you can't see. You need to constantly check up on them, see what they're doing, be aware of what they're doing. If they've got a Facebook page and you don't know what Facebook is, join Facebook, get your own Facebook page, explore it, see what it's all about, enter a chat room that they're in, privately, and chat with them to see what they're doing and to keep up with it. Teach them the rules of not giving out personal information and what personal information is, your home address, your school, those kinds of things that predators could track them from, and to never make any kind of face-to-face meeting with somebody that they've met on the internet or otherwise, of course, without checking first, and that they should always come to you and feel comfortable coming to their parent or guardian if something makes them scared, uncomfortable, or confused that they're coming across while they're on the internet. And that not everybody that you meet on the internet is who they appear to be. When you're entering the the cyber world, you can be whoever you want to be. You know, maybe a 40-year-old man you're talking to, not a 13-year-old girl who's trying to befriend you. So those are some basic important rules to teach your kids.
Okay. Now, if you suspect that a child living in your area is the victim of an abduction, what are some signs to look for? How can we recognize abducted children among us?
Well, you know, interestingly enough, I think it's probably easier for a school maybe to recognize that child, because there's going to be things that are missing, such as school records, maybe immunization records that they need to enter school, Social Security numbers, things that are going to raise red flags to the schools. If they're living in your neighborhood or you're seeing them on the street, they may have some sort of alteration to their appearance. They may have dyed hair or wear improperly fitting clothes because they're moving around so often. They may also appear fearful of their parent or law enforcement. They may have been told that law enforcement are bad. Anything really that makes you uneasy or just doesn't feel right, you should always take action and help a child in need. I mean, we had a case in Van Buren, Arkansas, probably about a year ago, that two mothers in McDonald's were there playing with their children and just felt a little uneasy about an interaction that two other children were having with what appeared to be their father. And when a police officer happened to come by, they stopped him and told them of their feelings, and it happened that these children had been abducted from New York State.
Wow.
And had traveled all the way to Arkansas. So had it not been for the vigilance of those women, you know, those children could be anywhere right now. So it's really important, if you see something that just doesn't look right or feel right, notify somebody.
Wow, okay. Now, what can one do if separated from their children during a natural disaster, such as a tornado or a hurricane?
Well, one of the great things that came out of Hurricane Katrina was that Congress did designate the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children as kind of a hub when these natural disasters happen. They set up the National Center for Emergency Services, or something similar to that, that activates when a natural disaster is declared by the president, and then the National Center will set up a separate hotline and a web address and activate people to that area to try to gather information of children that are missing. But what they recommend that you do in the meantime, if you know that a natural disaster is ready to take place, or if you have some sort of forewarning of it, gather important information, important documents, maybe photos of your children, make copies, send them to a relative, or email them out to relatives that aren't in the area. Carry those documents on you as well. You know, make a plan with your children if you would get separated. And maybe for the smaller children, they do recommend that you write your information like on their arm or something like that with a permanent marker, you know, that won't come off. And that way, if you do get separated, there's some sort of information to go off of there.
Right. Because with Hurricane Katrina, there were a lot of children
There
that got
were.
separated, right? I mean,
There were, and the National Center did take that over rather quickly, and thankfully all of them had been reunited.
yeah.
So.
All right. Now, what information should children be given in order to help them avoid being abducted?
Well, especially for smaller children, we make the rules pretty simple that we teach them. And those 3 rules that we usually teach are to always take a friend, tell a trusted adult, you know, or ask, check first, and to say no and go tell. And basically what that means is always take a friend. You know, never go anywhere alone, whether it be in a restroom in a park, you know, anywhere, playing outside, riding your bike, because not only is it safer, but it's more fun if you have a friend with you. You always want to check first if you're going to go somewhere other than where your parents or guardians think you are, or if somebody's offering you something, such as a piece of candy, you know, any situation, you always want to check first. And of course, if anything makes you feel scared, uncomfortable, or confused, you say no and you go tell. So those are the real simple rules we teach younger children. Older children, we just teach them to be aware. You know, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who you're talking to, and if something doesn't feel right, it's, you know, the same thing. Go tell. You know, still take a friend when you're older. You know, it's more fun and it is safer. So.
Okay. Now, there's been some increasing concern about giving children an overly acute sense of stranger danger. In what ways can children be educated about the dangers of possible abduction without making them paranoid and frightened of the world around them?
Exactly. I'm so glad you asked that question, because when anything happens, I mean, the first thing that people start calling our office about is, you know, we want to teach kids stranger danger. You know, we want to do an article on stranger danger, and it's just, it's a slogan. I mean, it's not a good word to use when it comes to child safety. I mean, first of all, adults don't practice it. You know, if we're teaching children not to go talk to strangers, then we shouldn't be talking to strangers in the line at Walmart or at the gas station when you're filling up. You know, we don't practice it, so children don't get it.
Right.
They don't get that idea. And, you know, as adults, even with our experience and our judgment, we're not able to tell who bad people are. You know, I couldn't point them out on the street, so it's really hard to teach children to know, just to be able to look at and point out who those bad people are. So really what we try to do with our prevention education is we try to teach, you know, children safety skills and empower them to be self-confident and to have that self-esteem to make good choices and good decisions as far as their safety goes.
Right. All right. Now, what are some of the accomplishments of the Morgan Nick Foundation?
Well, we've got quite a few accomplishments in our long history. Like I said, one of the biggest things we do is our prevention education. And to date, since the foundation has been started in 1996, we've reached over 850,000 children with our safety education. And that's the most important thing, is to reach them first. We've also been involved with some national and statewide legislation that's been passed, you know, as far as missing and exploited children. We helped establish the Morgan Nick Amber Alert here in Arkansas and the command center that the state police has for the Morgan Nick Amber Alert. We also have a Picture Them Home campaign that we started just last year, that we're putting pictures of missing children on the back of police cars. And we actually had the first police agency here in Clarksville, Arkansas, was the first in the whole entire nation to do it. So we are pretty proud of that, and we now have 9 agencies in 4 different states that are involved in this, featuring photos of almost 200 kids that are missing. So, and it's making a difference.
And in addition to this show, you've been on a lot of shows that have received international viewership, right? America's Most Wanted and that
Correct,
sort of thing.
correct.
Okay.
Morgan's case does get featured on a lot of shows, and you know, Caine, her mother, does have the opportunity to train law enforcement nationally of the issue of missing and exploited children. So we do get a lot of coverage.
Wow, okay. And now, we've already mentioned some of the steps that people can take if their children are missing, but as we wrap up today's show, please give us a few websites or phone numbers that people can turn to for help if they should need it.
Well, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is probably one of the most important ones, and their phone number is 1-800-THE-LOST. It's very easy to remember, and they also have a website, which is missingkids.com. Another important one that we utilize a lot, because as I said, we have a lot of runaway children, is the National Runaway Switchboard. They're also a great resource for people to turn to, and their number is just 1-800-RUNAWAY. So, and their web address is also 1-800runaway.org. But both of those resources and a whole lot of others are listed on our website. So if you went to morgannick.com and hit our links page, we have all those links right off of our website.
Okay, well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, you have been watching the Caine interviews, and we've been talking with Tara Landers from the Morgan Nick Foundation. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Stay tuned to Community Access Television, Channel 18, Fayetteville. See you next time.